Hey there Trekkies, I'm the Trek Lad and this is my review of Star Trek Discovery's 5th season premiere episode, Red Directive. Star Trek Discovery is back with what we now know is its final season, following the show's cancellation back in March of 2023. Don't say I didn't warn you. According to reports, filming of the season had already wrapped, so this news came as quite a surprise and is likely the main reason for its delay due to reshoots to give the show a more conclusive ending. The first episode of what the show is calling its final adventure, Red Directive throws Burnham and her crew into an epic treasure hunt as they seek to retrieve a mysterious artifact which is also being pursued by some of the galaxy's most dangerous outlaws. A quick heads up, this review will likely contain spoilers, so if you've not yet seen this episode, this might not be the video for you. If you're just looking for my overall thoughts, you can skip to the timestamp shown on the screen now. Let's warp into this. I've made my thoughts on Discovery pretty clear at this point. I'll always be willing to give the show a go, but it's far from my favourite in the franchise. It's a show that I think has squandered its potential on multiple occasions since premiering back in 2017. It wants to be this big and bold addition to Star Trek, but it's never been able to be anything more than a pale imitation of much better stuff we've seen before. The show has earned praise for its inclusive casting and diverse characters, but beyond Burnham and Saru, it's never been able to make anyone that interesting. The show's attempts at Trek's humanistic inner exploration is far too melodramatic for my taste, and after 50 episodes the show is yet to give me something truly satisfying on the sci-fi front. Jumping forward in time from season 3 has given the show a unique identity, but also some new problems. To underline its far future setting, the show introduced a load of magical tech, but all this has done is defy logic and often undercut any tension and drama. Why should we worry about our heroes getting blown out of an airlock when we know they're all wearing Iron Man-like nanosuits? Why worry about pesky things like exploration when the ship can just jump from one point in the galaxy to another with seemingly no limit on how far they can go? All this has given Discovery a whiff of instant gratification, and that would be great if the kids were watching, but they're not. For better or worse, Red Directive is Discovery at its most Discovery-est. Discovery-est? Is that a word? I don't know. Let's just go with it. If you like what Discovery brings to the Star Trek universe, you're probably going to have a good time. If you don't, you're not going to, and it's just going to annoy you even more than it has before. And if you're somewhere in the middle, let's be real, you probably stopped watching this show a long time ago. A lot has been said about this final season leaning into some sort of Indiana Jones style adventure, and that's clear from the very start of the episode. Red Directive is fast-paced and more than happy to hop around in time and space. There does seem to be an effort to make this final adventure as fun as possible. The cast all look like they're having a good time, and even David Cronenberg's Kovich can be seen cracking a smile in a couple of his scenes. It's all much more light and upbeat while still retaining things like Discovery's contemporary dialogue. We hear Tilly say "Jarl" at one point, its juvenile use of swearing, and of course, massive apocalyptic stakes. Because why change the storytelling habits of a lifetime? Combine all this with Jeff Russo's score, which is clearly trying to sound more John Williams than Alexander Courage. This is the most obvious attempt from Trek's current management to give us Star Trek in the mould of things like Star Wars and the MCU. Again, there are going to be fans out there who like this kind of thing, but I'm not one of them. For me, it feels like a cynical attempt to appeal to the widest possible audience. In a nice surprise, the episode actually gives us answers to some early questions. This is a major change from modern serialized Trek, and I'm very happy to see it. Instead of stringing us along for 80% of the season, Red Directive makes it pretty clear what's at the heart of its mystery box and what the real stakes of the season are probably going to be. Now, I'm sure there'll be plenty of twists and turns to come, but it does feel like an attempt to improve on the storytelling front. It's a reassuring sign that maybe, just maybe, Michelle Paradise and her writing team are going to come good at the final time of trying. Another positive is the show's early character development. Burnham remains front and centre, with Sonequa Martin Green continuing to evolve her character into a more likeable hero, although she did have some lines which came across more like a blend of Mariner and Tony Stark than what we've heard from her before. Callum Keith Rennie's Rayner, that's a bit of a mouthful, is an intriguing and exciting addition to the main cast. A direct and no-nonsense, ends justify the means kind of captain who seems destined to clash with Burnham for most of the season. Callum Keith Rennie is well known to many sci-fi fans for his appearances in The X-Files and Battlestar Galactica, and when it was announced that he was joining the show, it it seemed a lock that he would be doing so as the season's main villain. Now, after his first appearance, I'm not so sure. Burnham has her reservations almost immediately, and after clashing over his approach, which results in the episode's big action set piece, I think the two are actually more alike than either are willing to admit. My bold prediction for the season is that these two will come to understand and respect each other, with both admitting their faults and learning from one another. That would be nice. Another character who gets a lot to do this week is Saru, who we learn is now not only in a relationship with Navarre President Tarina, but has also been offered a diplomatic position that will require him to leave the Discovery. Saru is one of the show's biggest gifts to the Star Trek universe. His development from early appearances as a cowardly subordinate to hero of the galaxy is one of Discovery's best and most consistent character arcs, and this feels like the perfect way to end his journey. Doug Jones is great as he always is, enjoying good chemistry with Sonequa Martin Green and Tara Rosling's T'Pring, even if his scenes with the Vulcan ambassador verge a little too close to the melodramatic for my liking. New villains Mole and Locke are introduced fairly well and feel like characters that could have a little bit more to them than the show's previous one-dimensional baddies. I'm not holding my breath though. I also enjoyed J. Adam Brown's wonderfully named Fred, who looks and acts absolutely spot on as the Soong-type android who makes a brief but important appearance midway through. Now, I'm not sure if we'll see him again, I hope we do, but if we don't, I think Brown would be an excellent way to continue Data's legacy if that's something Trek are still looking to do. As mentioned, Discovery is weakest when trying to do sci-fi, and if this episode is anything to go by, it doesn't look like the show's in a hurry to change that anytime soon. The episode's mindless action sequence, a very Star Wars-esque chase through the desert, results in a fast-moving sand and rock avalanche that threatens thousands of innocent lives. The show's resolution to have Discovery intentionally crash into the surface to stop this avalanche is wild, and seriously strains the show's already stretched sci-fi credibility. How is any of this even remotely possible? The show doesn't actually know, and does this thing I mentioned earlier where it just expects all this to make sense because something future technology and something 32nd century. It's dumb. It's really dumb. The show knows it, and it wants to move on as quickly as possible. The show concludes with the revelation that the thing they're looking for, this ancient artifact, is directly connected to what we saw way back in TNG's 6th season episode, The Chase, an adventure mystery that culminated with the incredible discovery of an alien race responsible for seeding the galaxy with life. This complete game changer of development was never mentioned on the show again, because of course it wouldn't be. On one hand, I quite like this. Is it unimaginative borrowing of old ideas like we've seen modern Trek do way too often? Is Discovery really about to rehash a single episode and stretch it into 10? Probably, but we'll see. I do think it's an idea that's worth revisiting given its massive galaxy-changing implications. Whether you like it or not, family and coming together has always been at the heart of Discovery under Michelle Paradise. The idea of this final adventure finding a way to unite the entire universe seems very on brand for the show, and while there's potential for things to get very silly and sickly sweet, I have to admit that I'm actually looking forward to seeing how the rest of this season unfolds. Red Directive won't win over many of Discovery's critics, but I don't think the show cares at this point. It leans, or rather full-on crashes in this episode's instance, into its own quirks. A fast-paced show with more emphasis on heart over head, lots of whispers and quips over coffee for some reason, and of course, those stupid bridge flamethrowers. I went into this with low expectations given the show's historical quality, but found myself pleasantly entertained. It's far from Star Trek at its best, and I'm not sure it's even really up there with the best of Discovery. It's very silly, but it's also rarely dull and sets us up quite nicely for what could be a surprisingly decent final season. For that reason, I'm giving Red Directive a 6 out of 10. But what did you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this coming soon. Until next time, I'm the Trek Lad. Live long and prosper.